Let's take a closer look at the question types and specifically the question forms in which they are displayed during the day of the test. Looking at text completion, there are three forms to this question. There is the single blank, the double blank, and the triple blank. The single blank may be one sentence or anywhere up to 4 sentences long and will always have one single blank. Now there will be 5 answer options that correspond to the single blank. Picking one of the right answers, and there will only be one, will give you the correct point. Whereas in the double and the triple blank questions, you will have texts which are usually 3 to 4 sentences long, and each of the blank will have 3 answer options corresponding to each of them. So in a double blank question, there will be 3 answer options for the first and the 3 for the second, and therefore there are 9 ways to answer them. This gets a little more complicated with the triple blank, where you have 27 different ways to answer these questions. Therefore, even if you have really great vocabulary, you will need very good structure and very good ability to break down complex sentences to be able to answer these right. And this plays out the other way as well. Even if you're a master at breaking down complex sentences, you will not be successful if your vocabulary is not in place. Remember, there is no partial points for these question types, meaning you get 2 of the blanks right and 1 of it wrong, you get 0 points. The next question type is the sentence equivalence question. This seems very harmless at first, but it is actually quite a deceptively challenging question type. Why? Well, though it is just 1 sentence long and has only 1 blank, there are 6 answer options, but you're supposed to pick 2 right answers. In other words, only if you pick both the right options will you be given a point. So looking at it probabilistically, or looking at it from a counting perspective, there are 6 into 5, 30 different ways to select 2 answers, but only 1 way in which you get a point. So if you're not very sure about your vocabulary, if you're not very clear about how words are used in context, this question type will be quite challenging. The next question type, of course, is reading comprehension, and there are 3 forms of reading comprehension. The one is the most obvious, the most commonly found type in most exams, which is the multiple choice question, where you have 5 answer options and you're supposed to pick one of the answer options based on the information given in the passage. Again, there's only 1 right answer in this case. Moving on to the slightly novel type of question or answer type, which is the multiple response question, where you have 3 answer options and you're supposed to pick all the correct answer options and none of the wrong ones. What this implies is that there could be more than 1 right answer. There could be 1, 2, or 3 right answers, and you have to pick all of the correct ones and none of the wrong ones. Again, being very sure about how GRE tests you and how to read the passage critically so that you answer only based on the data provided is very, very important to be successful in this question type. The third form of question is a select the sentence kind of question, where you have no answer options, but parts of the sentence become highlighted, or parts of the passage become highlighted when you hover over it, when you come to this question type. You're required to click on the sentence that corresponds to the question provided to you. In this case, the sentence provided to you, or the sentence which contains the right answer, is the penultimate sentence, and this answers the question discussed in this question number 3. So what are the challenges that students come across when they face the GRE? Well, from what we've seen so far, there is a challenge of stamina, meaning that this is a long and arduous test, and if you're not able to keep up with that rigor, you will definitely face issues on the day of the test. You will realize that you're getting stressed, that you're losing your ability to stay focused from beginning to the end, and as a result, you will see dips in your score and your performance as the time progresses. The second is with respect to time management. As we saw with, for example, with reading comprehension, being able to manage your time very, very effectively is very important. Also realize that this is a test where you're rewarded for getting as many questions right, not necessarily getting all the questions right. So having a different perspective on how you strategize your time is very, very important. And this comes only if you're very confident with the entire process of taking the test itself. Stress. Well, think about this. You're going to be in a not so ideal or tranquil state of mind when you're taking the test because, well, you have performance anxiety. You're in a constant state of being focused throughout, and this can stress you out over time. It is a long test, and all these factors, along with a few other psychological aspects that many people go through when they're taking tests, will ensure that you're in a high stress state. Many of these stresses can be overcome by practice and by having, or rather instilling, good test taking habits or behaviors during your practice sessions. The others which you cannot overcome, well, that we will see or we will understand how to deal with when you do face them. So the key is that even though you are very likely to face stress, you shouldn't be overwhelmed by it. You should know exactly how you can overcome it or deal with it so that you can perform at your best possible state throughout the entire test. Also, we discussed how complex text can be really counterintuitive or counterproductive when you're trying to comprehend and understand something, because you go from thinking strategically to going into a very academic mode, and this can be very deleterious to your overall progress. We will talk more about this and how to deal with this when we come to the reading comprehension module of the course itself. There's also the aspect of complex vocabulary. Again, the problem is the vocabulary tested is not really tested as definitions. If that were the case, a lot of the students who memorize the meaning of words will be doing really well, but they don't do well. This is because a GRE tests contextual meaning, and again, since vocab building is not a short-term process, it's a long-term process, you need to be able to build vocabulary in a meaningful way. And again, this is something that will be addressed in depth when we discuss the vocabulary module of this course. And this is a very pivotal or very important aspect of the GRE itself. So how do we overcome these challenges? We've discussed some of those aspects, but let's look at it a little more deeper. So there are 4 ways in which you can deal with all of these challenges. The first thing to know is that you need to start early. Don't put off preparation, and specifically preparing for the vocabulary, to the last minute, right? You may want to start a few months in advance so that you have enough time to have contingency plans in case something goes wrong. So having this buffer time does help reduce stress as well during the time of the test. Second, don't necessarily look at the GRE as a content test, because the content and the concepts tested on the GRE is very basic. Apart from vocabulary, if you look at English, you have reading comprehension and fill in the blanks, which is very basic stuff that you've come across throughout your life. You also have very basic mathematical formula and equations tested on the GRE mathematical section. So it's not really a test of content, rather it's a test of strategy, and you need to be focusing on figuring out what strategies best work for different circumstances and practicing in such in a test-like environment to ensure that you're able to replicate that critical thinking during the day of the test. The third aspect is to make your practice test day-like, meaning ensure that you practice your questions in a test day-like environment. For instance, if you're practicing a particular topic, make sure you pick at least 20 questions and practice them in one chunk. Time yourself. Ensure that you take multiple full-length tests through the course of your preparation. So we suggest about 5 to 6 full-length mock tests through the entire course of your preparation. That will get you very prepared for the experience of the entire GRE itself. Also, be consistent with your preparation. It's not, we don't expect, or from what we've observed, it's not essential that you spend 8 hours a day studying. No, that doesn't make sense. Rather, if you can allocate about 1 to 2 hours a day, but consistently prepare, perhaps 4 days in a week, every week, and about 1 to 2 hours a day, you will realize that your ability to overcome challenges increases substantially, and your scores improve substantially over a period of a month or so.